instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod.
All right, welcome, everybody, golfers alike, to the Flagstick Podcast. I'm Jeff Potter. He is snowed in snowman Scott McLeod. And the podcast is brought to you and everybody else this week by our good friends at Golf PEI. Golf Prince Edward Island is a premier Canadian golf destination boasting the most number of golf courses per capita in the country, with over 400 fairways closer than you can imagine, top-tier accommodation, and exquisite culinary experiences. It is the easiest golf vacation you will ever book, so book it. golfpei.ca. Check us out. Follow us across all our social media networks, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, we do encourage you to like us, subscribe to the new YouTube channel, like us, and click notification bell. Make sure you never miss a single episode.
Just like us. Just like us.
Yeah, or just like us.
Yeah.
We're needy. We're needy
like
people.
us.
We just need to be liked. We need to be liked. And we need the snow to go away. I mean, I'm done. I really am kind of done with winter. I really am done with winter. I'm just, I know you're sick of snow. Different situations here. We probably have the same amount of snow. However, clearing this snow in my area where I am, I have plenty of places to blow said snow.
You have more to take care of.
Yes. You have nowhere to blow this. You have nowhere to throw the snow anymore.
No.
Like you'll be throwing it onto your neighbor's cars because there's no yard left to snow it. Throw it onto.
I was lifting a shovel up over my head at this point. I mean, two cars in the driveway, which helps, at least cover the driveway. But the problem is the snow pile that's on our front lawn is higher than the cars at this point. So, and it just came in a rapid period of time. And my wife being a teacher, I mean, they had tons of snow days with no buses. They've had one canceled day where the schools were closed. Of course, everybody thought their teachers are sitting home doing nothing, but they're doing report cards. So, and I feel bad for the kids too that, prepared for exams for high school stuff, and those got pushed back. And it's just not a lot. Look, we live in Canada. I get it. It's just an annoyance more than anything. And unfortunately, it becomes just like this right now. It becomes everything that we seem to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Now, would you say you've gotten 56 or 57 meters of snow?
Did you just pull a 6-7?
No. I actually pulled a social media blunder that one of the politicians said that they received 56 meters. No, seriously, honest to God, 56 meters of snow. I was listening to this and I'm like, 56
is this Toronto?
Yes. 56
56
meters of snow.
Wow, that's a lot.
Wow. If you got 56 meters of snow,
oh boy, someone doesn't fully know the metric system. So you know what? The
math ain't mathing.
No, we got a bunch, and I know Toronto got hammered with a bunch too, and it came in a quick period of time, and it just makes a big inconvenience as well for things like travel and stuff like that. We had a big crash west of here yesterday, 17 cars. Thankfully nobody was hurt, but that comes into play for how you live in the wintertime as well. So
certainly does.
Canceling lessons, canceling hockey games, canceling everything. So anyways,
not a single canceled hockey game.
That's pretty I'm not sure if that's
pretty impressive.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Well,
in some cases, I think
at least not for us. Now, the games the game that happened tonight, a lot of games are getting canceled. We were playing against Osgood, which is like
close by,
15 minutes away. So they kind of let that happen. And
and I know some have. I mean, we canceled some volleyball practices and stuff, but it's just you know what? Here's the thing: end of January. Let's hope it's getting closer to summer as we speak.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
We'll leave it at that. We'll get to the topic at hand and quit being a weather podcast.
All right. Yeah, I was going to say you're now listening to the Flagstick Weather Podcast. Okay, on the show this week, it's not really a surprise what we're going to talk about.
No, shouldn't be.
We're going to be chatting about Scottie Scheffler, who has one start on the PGA Tour this year and one victory on the PGA Tour this year. Happens to be the 20th of his career. So we're going to discuss a little bit of his rise to success and what we expect to see in the near future. That's going to be the thrust of the podcast, and whatever else kind of happens to come up as we go along. So let's get at it. Front Nine presented by Metcalf Golf Club. A natural setting, a pleasant challenge. It is now time to start thinking about the golf season ahead. It really is. Game packages for everyone, 10, 20s, and 30s. Round passes are always available. And of course, don't forget the memberships, the league registrations. Visit metcalfgolf.com and stay in touch with golf savings, especially for the upcoming season. All right, well, I think we've caught up enough.
Only thing I need to catch up on, I need your light bulb. Mine is, I don't know what's going on here. I look like I'm death warmed over.
You look just fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Oh, good.
Registration for the Flagstick Open has been open now for a bit, and I will say we are at about 110 of 120 registrations, and the tournament is in May. Mm-hmm. So I advise anybody that wants to play in the Flagstick Open this year, which I don't know why you wouldn't, presented by TaylorMade and Adidas Golf, I would suggest that you get your registration in now. And even if you get on the wait list, there's a good chance that you're still going to get into the tournament. So make sure that you get into the event or you get on the wait list. Because they're filling up quick.
Yeah, and those spots are going to go. I mean, I heard from a couple of people yesterday that were just waiting for a couple of, financial things or whatever, and they will be signing up promptly. So those spots are going to go fast. So like you said, get on the waiting list if you can't get one of the guaranteed spots. So.
Okay. Scottie Scheffler, winner this week. American Express Championship, Amex Championship, 20th victory of his very young career.
Yeah, very young.
He was 27 under to finish the event off.
I think it's interesting. Here's a guy who's 29 years old, but I think it's I don't know. Part of the emphasis for this or for the podcast is that there's still a lot of people that are kind of new to the game that maybe don't know his history, don't know his evolution. They've been aware of what he's done in the last couple of years, but they also perceive him for some reason to be like 40 years old. Whether that's his look or whatever.
Because he does kind of look like he's a 40-year-old. Like I'm not going to lie, and sorry, Scottie Scheffler, if you're listening to the podcast.
Sure he's heard it. I'm sure he's heard it. Yeah,
but. You don't look like a 29-year-old. You just really don't, and that's fine. Whatever. I mean, some people are. I mean, I've got kids on my hockey team that don't look like they're 13.
Yeah, so it's not a judgment, but I think where it plays into this conversation or whatever is just people have a perception that he's got 20 wins and that's been a nice career. Well, dude's only getting started. So,
I think that's the point. And I think that's where you start to look at how people start to draw, those in the industry anyway, and that know his age, start to draw conclusions and comparisons to other golfers that have had accomplished similar feat around the same age. And then you start to wonder, well, wait a second, we're talking about this guy being the GOAT and this guy being the GOAT and this guy. Right. It's like, wait a minute. Scheffler's got to be put in this conversation at some point here of not the GOAT. I mean, he's not there yet by any stretch of the imagination, but he is winning. He is winning a lot of golf tournaments. Yeah. And he's and not just tournament, he wins majors too. Yeah. So,
and I think a good way to start here is just to kind of put this 20th win in perspective as far as, some of the things that it sort of means from a milestone perspective. And, that, and it's wild when you think of this fact, because again, PGA Tour has been around a long time. So a lot of people are like, where's this put him or whatever. He is now the 40th player to get to 20 wins on the PGA Tour. and tied for 36 in all-time wins. So a lot of people might think, he's higher up or whatever, but man, there's been a lot of good players on the tour for a long while. But he's the first player to reach 20 wins since Rory McIlroy did it in 2021. So this is where it starts to
the spread out starts to happen.
Yeah, we start to snowball. We start to think about this because no offense to the players back in the early days of the PGA Tour.
Era.
Very different era. You had, 4 balls and partner events and lots of different things that sort of padded some of the wins for some of those players and things over the years, don't have the depth of fields, don't ever. So this is why it starts to become more significant because it's harder and harder to do it. And that's why, when a player starts to accomplish these sort of things, money aside, because, obviously we're going to.
Those are the comparisons you can't really.
Because
anymore.
Because it's totally different. But I mean, when you start to breathe the name of other significant players, and I'm about to say the one, first player since Tiger Woods to get 20 wins under the age of 30. So we start to get into more rarefied air when you're discussing that. I mean, we think about Rory winning the Masters last year, but it was a big gap in between. And Rory's not a spring chicken anymore. He's still a young guy, but he's also been around for a lot longer. And Scottie's done this in such a big burst, that's why I think, it's getting people discussing his name that much more because of the pace that he's doing at, something that we haven't seen, since the Tiger, VJ for 1 year. But I mean, to do it year after year and to do it consistently, that's when it's like, oh boy, okay, this guy's doing big things. And as you said, not just regular events, but doing majors as well, because, as we talked about, Brooks winning 5 majors, but Brooks has 9 PGA Tour wins.
I was going to say, that was one of the things I was going to say, because people at one point, a lot of people, including Brooks himself, was talking about, his, Brooks is the next big thing. He's, chasing down Tiger Woods and Jack, winning he's a major winner and things like that. It's like, okay, that's great.
Yeah. But,
and then of course we saw what happened with Brooks, that things went down a little bit, then he went to live. Now he's coming back. Yeah. Scheffler has been like a pillar of consistency with just winning.
Once he started winning, because it took him a while. On PGA Tour. But once he did, like you said, it's just like, oh my God. Again, I mean, he just finished having a 16th top 10 in a row. Tiger had 11. So to do it 16 times in a row as far as a top 10, I mean, that's just like, right away. Like it was funny Saturday night. Someone said to me, "Oh, who do you have your money on tomorrow?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Did you see the last putt today?" Like, it's just like,
well, that's the thing. How do you bet against him? How do you bet against him? What is he led the field in birdies this past week with 32. I mean, the next most was Castillo. Ricky Castillo with 29, but where did tied for 44?
Exactly, because because there's the difference.
Yeah,
right? Ricky Castillo is making 29 birdies. Most people don't even know who he is. Second of all, to finish T44 means he also made a lot of bogeys.
Yeah. Which Scheffler did not.
What do we not see Scheffler doing? I mean, and again, this is just summarizing what he did this week. I mean, this is the 6th time he played in this tournament. It's the first time he's won it, but this is 7 wins in his last.
I was going to say this is 7 in his last 13. So this is like just do the math, people. 7 out of 13 tournaments he's won.
That's
7.
That's a more than a career for some people. If just that window alone is a career. I mean, most players play on the PGA Tour. They want to be a PGA Tour winner. If they win one PGA Tour event in their career, they're considered a very successful player.
Absolutely.
And to do this,
Scheffler, since the start of 2024, has won 14 times. The next closest is Rory McIlroy at 5.
Yeah.
So since 2024, Scheffler's won 14 tournaments.
Yeah.
Rory McIlroy has won 5.
Yeah.
and he's second to him.
Yeah, and I think it bears that discussion that we've talked about is that Scottie Scheffler is doing this in a dominant way as far as his play, but obviously, as we talked about, Rory is more. We hear more about Rory in a lot of cases. We're hearing lots about Scottie. I'm not saying we're not, but because he's talks more, he's sought out more and stuff. Where Scottie is the guy who comes, brings his lunch bucket, gets the job done,
goes home to his family and moves
hi to
on
Meredith,
to the next tournament.
Kids, move on to the next tournament. Just win, win, win. Loves to win, but he's not as we talked about before, he's not the fist pump guy. He's not, he'll show a little bit of emotion, whether that's tears or some joy or whatever, but it's done in such a plodding, methodical manner that you almost forget that it's actually happening until it's happening. So yeah. And like we said, this is just what happened, this week.
So, all right, with that,
yeah,
people maybe need to know a little bit more about his history. That this wasn't just something that some guy that just showed up on the PGA Tour and started doing stuff.
No.
That this is a guy who, like golfers before him, paid his dues as a junior and as an amateur and worked his way up to the PGA Tour and so on. But we don't talk about the rise of him as much as we do talk about the current status of him and Tiger and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So who is Scottie Scheffler? Scott, who is Scottie Scheffler?
Well, the cool part about doing this is that I remember a couple years ago, somebody asked me a little bit about Scheffler, and I spent some time, remember digging through like his blue golf records and, looking up, the North Texas PGA. So he's a Dallas area guy. North Texas PGA runs a primary junior tour that's in the Dallas area. And I remember looking at the results and laughing because it was like, 1-1-1-1-1-2, 1-1-1-1-2, like it's dominant. And when you start to talk to other pros or other golfers who, played golf in that era, in that part of the country, that's all they said. It's like you showed up at a tournament and you hope to finish second. And if you happen to beat him, it was a remarkable occasion. And he was just this little dude. Like if you go back and look at it, he's not the big strapping guy that he was now. But, when you talk to people about what he was like, he was dogged. He was determined. He was like, he was a killer without being a killer. Like he'd just do his thing and he's not going to throw it in your face, but you knew he was going to do it. So, that North Texas PGA, between the ages of 8 and 14, he won 75 tournaments. Think about that. Juniors these days, and again, no offense to, some kids and stuff these days, but there's a lot of tours because there's so many tours now on a junior perspective. There's a lot of tours with very weak fields. And I see kids padding up their, schedules and going, I won this and I won this. Well, you beat one player or two players. There's 3 players in your category. These are fullish fields of, some of the most talented golfers in Texas, which is obviously a golf hotbed. He was beating a lot of other future pros to win these events. So, and he's just doing it on a consistent basis. So even if you look at that of, 6-7 years, that's winning 10, 11 tournaments a year just on the North Texas PGA, winning state titles. He won 3 high school state titles. He matched the record of Jordan Spieth, who was kind of just before him, and they end up, going to the same school as far as University of Texas. Won the U.S. Junior Amateur in 2013. So obviously he's rising at this point. He's worked with the same coach forever and Randy Smith, and going to be a big recruit and going to be a top player, but quietly, right? Like,
that's the thing. It's very quiet because you look at now, we're hearing about, obviously we hear about Charlie Woods a little bit.
Yeah, but Blades Brown right now.
Blades Brown. And we hear about some other kids that are, junior golfers. We hear about some of these junior golfers that are coming up. Right. And I can honestly say, being around golf as much as I have, I really didn't hear a whole lot
Mhm.
about Scottie Scheffler as a junior golfer
Sure. Yeah.
coming
Yeah. Yeah.
up
Yeah.
as I did with some other kids
Yeah.
that ended up going to NCAA schools. And we
Right.
heard about them before they even got there, that this
Yeah.
kid's going to be on the PGA Tour soon and stuff like that.
Right.
Whether it was through, hearing things through
Social
the Nordic Gay
media or
tournament or
yeah.
social media. But Scheffler, I never heard a whole lot about as
No.
a junior, and then you look at this and you're like, well, how did I not hear about this kid that was
Yeah.
winning 75 tournaments between the ages of 8 and 14
Yeah.
and 3 consecutive state titles in the US and a US junior? Like, how did I not hear about
Yeah.
this kid?
Yeah.
Same way we kind of hear about him now, we know about him now, but we still don't really
Right.
hear about him as much as we do other guys.
Yeah, and then you wonder, is this thing an anomaly? Because he gets in his first PGA Tour event, he gets to play, and at age 17, he gets a spot in the 2014 Byron Nelson, and again, if he'd finished top 5, top 10, we might have heard about it more. Tied for 22nd at 17 and had a hole-in-one during this tournament. Obviously well known enough that he's going to be one of the top juniors, heavily recruited, ends up at University of Texas, wins the award for top freshman in the country, makes it onto the Walker Cup team, does play in the US Open that same year that he played in the Byron Nelson, tied for 27th. And then it's like, okay, does his thing. What's he going to do at the pro level? Well, that's always the question. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you come out of playing as an amateur, and again, the best kid at 10, 12, 14, 17 is not always going to be the best pro, right?
But I would have looked at his results at the Byron Nelson at tied for 22nd, and the results at the U.S. Open is tied for 27th, and go, okay, I think the pro career might be pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, average
potential.
maybe, but not.
Yeah, potential's there, right?
Yeah.
So the potential is there, but again, we've had lots of those cases over the years where players have had success, and then
Ricky Barnes.
So it just didn't always translate to what we're going to do at the pro level. Now the fun part is that it's not like we'll say now there's a lot more pathways where some of these players can jump up and get to the PGA Tour from a business standpoint, exemptions, so forth. I mean, obviously we look at Blades Brown, playing on Korn Ferry Tour. He has Korn Ferry status. He's fortunate the agency that represents him also runs the tournament at the Amex, gets a spot in that. Obviously contends, but he also knows that he's in Panama this week, grinding away, because he's got to work his way up, and that's what Scottie Scheffler did. I mean, he played his first full season on the Korn Ferry Tour. No, he didn't start at PGA Tour Americas, but he started on the Korn Ferry Tour, and then right away 2 wins, Rookie of the Year, and that gets him a spot on the PGA Tour. Now this is where the context starts to come, is like 2020. So in this decade, we're 2026 right now. That's when he got to the PGA Tour.
Yeah,
like it's 6 years ago. I mean,
it's not like he's been out there for 15 years.
No, despite what we kind of perceive, and even at the age of 23, getting to the PGA Tour is still a huge accomplishment to get there. And but again, he wasn't like dominating right away. He was learning right away, and he was the PGA Tour Rookie of the Year. Starts obviously at that point, a lot of people are going to be talking about him, but I think a lot of people started to talk about him for other things. They looked at his golf swing as being non-traditional, and I think that's the aesthetic crowd, maybe the people that are maybe slightly uninformed, just kind of looked at that, and they don't respect the fact that he's shooting 59 at the Northern Trust, and the fact that it's getting done. And there were early critics going, oh, is this swing going to hold up? And, maybe he's not winning. Maybe he needs to change his footwork. Maybe he needs to do this. But all the time, his record all the way had showed that he was having success. So why change? And obviously he didn't.
Well, and the interesting thing is, when you hear comments like that with somebody like Scheffler, you look, okay, the uniqueness of his swing and his footwork and stuff, and asking the question, will his swing hold up? And I would argue this. If you look at the history, if you look going back, like go way back and look at the history of PGA Tour, and you look at the history of some of the top players that have played, whether it's Fred Couples or Raymond Floyd or Craig Stadler or
Sure.
Bruce Litsky, and you
Fred
look at some Jack
Couples. Yeah.
Nicklaus, even if you look
Yeah.
at his
Oh, yeah,
golf
for
swing,
sure. Yeah.
and you look at these guys and you say, those are all unique swings. There isn't
Very
another
much.
player on the PGA Tour that played at his time or
Yeah.
any time since that swings like that. Yet
Right.
those swings have
Hmm.
held up forever.
Sure.
And you look at some of the more modern guys and that came out with the robotic type swings. I'll say robotic only because a lot of them look very, very similar. They're
Hmm.
kind of the same, got to be here, got to be here,
Symmetry.
trying to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more technical.
Mm.
Still great golfers, but those swings are the ones that have not stood up. Those swings are the ones that have changed.
Yeah.
Even Tiger's swing has changed a little
It
bit over
has.
time for
Yeah.
whatever reasons, but it has changed.
Yeah.
So I would argue that Scheffler, a swing like that is more likely to hold up because
For sure.
it's his one unique swing.
Yeah.
He can repeat it because it's a natural movement for him. Whereas other guys, it's not maybe as natural.
Yeah.
It's more technical, more positional.
And I wouldn't even say that. Yeah, I would say it's the functionality of it versus the form, and I think people look for a certain look, and to make it, because they think this is what the average golf swing. Well, we have to consider the average person is not really that, and everybody's going to function differently. And yes, Tiger might have been the most uniform of the top players that was a swing model, let's call it.
Mhm.
But we also know that from an athletic standpoint, he's a freak. So within
Aren't
everybody's
we all, Scott? Aren't we all?
so within everybody's body, they're going to do something the same. But that's, in essence, though, that has been Scottie Scheffler's superpower, is being to stick to his DNA.
Yeah.
And being confident in knowing where the golf ball goes. And what that's led to is a trophy cabinet at this point that is just wild.
And the biggest thing I think he's changed over the years he's been on the PGA Tour is his putting.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. We've got that in our notes or whatever to talk about, of how that's really evolved to, everybody would talk about, obviously his swing and what he's doing as far as ball striking was getting major results.
Well, let's talk about his accolades. Let's talk about the trophy cabinet, since we're kind of at that point. Let's talk about his trophy cabinet. What's in it?
Yeah, well, obviously we've got the 20 PGA Tour wins now, and we're starting here at 2026. Might have had more if he hadn't had his cooking accident last year. As you mentioned, 4 major championships already. A couple of Masters, a PGA, and an Open, and he had 2 of those last year alone. Gold medal at Paris in 2024, which is becoming increasingly important to the players as far as achieving that and completing things. Does he care about the FedEx Cup title? I don't know if he really does, but it's nice to have, and the cash spends well. 4-time PGA Tour Player of the Year, and that's really in 6 seasons. So, 22, 23, 24, 25, and obviously.
And remember, 2020, he was Rookie of the Year.
Right, exactly. So you got to remember that. So
there's only one year that he has not
been Rookie of the Year or Player of the Year.
Yeah.
And then one of the biggest things is that, depending on how you rate as far as, things like rating or rankings and so forth. And obviously it's slightly diminished, but we'll say weeks at number 175 and counting. And his gap right now over Rory is huge. And I think that's the one thing, is that just that dominance to create that massive gap is a big thing. So I mean, those are kind of some of the key metrics. But when we look at things like obviously those majors and how he won those majors, I mean, there's not a major that he's won with under a 3-stroke lead. So I mean, 22 Masters, he won that by 3. 24 Masters, he wins it by 4. Wins by 5 at the PGA Championship, and then he wins the Claret Jug by 4. So, and despite the fact that they were runaways, I guarantee a lot of people were glued to the TV still, just looking to see him accomplish history more than anything. And as we talked about, I mean, he's now down to a U.S. Open for a career Grand Slam. So 2 years in a row, as we talked about a couple shows ago, we have a chance to have another career Grand Slam winner. And, again, we're not going to, the money obviously skews based on the era or whatever.
Yeah, a little
but
bit, for sure.
But the fact that he's over $100 million in such a short period of time shows his proficiency and how quickly he can do a lot of these things. And on the other side of it, those 20 PGA Tour wins, 9 of them he's won by at least 4. So those are dominant performances. These are not squeaking it out.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. Yeah, the money aside, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, with his career earnings being up that high, but yeah, they're playing for a ton more money now than they had in the past. But it's not just, and it's you look at even the other categories that he leads year after year. He strokes gained, tee to green and scoring average. 4 consecutive seasons he's led in these categories. Well, these are the categories when you talk about the categories that separate the winners from the guy that finished the second or third of the top 5s or the top 10s. Yeah. Those are the categories that define who wins those tournaments. Those are the ones that are essentially about scoring. And when you have the scoring average, you lead the tour in scoring average from 2022 to 2025, you lead the tour in scoring average. Well, of course you're going to win some tournaments. Right. Like it's and you lead in strokes gained and you lead tee to green.
And that strokes gained tee to green is super important because, again, we'll go back to the Ricky Castillo sort of thing. If you look at that, if you're that good of a ball striker and you're hitting that ball that close on the green, your probability that you're going to make bogeys becomes way worse. And obviously your probability to make birdies goes way higher. So you're mitigating disasters, things that will send you backwards, so that when you do make a ton of birdies, you get rewarded for it because you're not making the blemishes on your scorecard. And that tends to be his thing. And, we even saw that with Blades Brown having this discussion of playing with, Scottie afterwards. And he's like, man, the dude just doesn't make any mistakes. And the short game is so good when he does. And, it's that capability that, is the separator. And it almost makes like, he almost wills the golf ball into the hole. And people used to talk about that with Tiger and Jack Nicklaus and whatever. And that's when we start to get into sort of the discussion of, what are the similarities between these players. So.
Exactly. Okay, we got to take a break. But before we go to break, little fun Scottie Scheffler fact.
Sure.
His 2024 season saw him win 7 times. The highest single season total since Tiger Woods did it in 2007. He followed that with 6 wins in 2025. That is the only player since 1983 to win 6+ times in back-to-back seasons.
Which means who didn't do
it, right? And which also means who has the potential going into this year, having just won the first tournament of the year, to do it in 3 consecutive years.
Yeah.
Scottie Scheffler. All right.
Cool to think of.
It is cool. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to dig into the gear a little bit in Scheffler's bag, and we're going to talk a little more Tiger comparisons. You're listening and watching the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. We'll be right back.
When you golf on Prince Edward Island, there are over 400 fairways closer than you can imagine. Not to mention countless miles of pristine beaches and a rich world-class culinary experience. So get here fast, then take it slow and play around on Island Time. Golf Prince Edward Island.
Welcome back to the Flagstick podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. We're going to continue our discussion about Scottie Scheffler. A couple of different categories we're going to talk about in the back 9. The back 9 is presented by Falcon Ridge Golf Club. Indoor golf is in full swing at Falcon Ridge. The simulators are open 7 days a week, starting at 8 a.m. and shutting down at 11 or whenever. They have 4 TrackMan simulators featuring over 400 golf courses, many PGA Tour courses that you would know. They also have beverages and light food available. Book your tee times on one of their 4 TrackMan sims. Visit falconridgegolf.ca. And yeah, right now I'd say we're January, February, March. It is sim season.
It is peak sim season.
I just heard actually that from my son Brandon that Camelot is putting their sims in. They're putting their sims up now.
Oh, okay.
So obviously they've gotten through the holiday season.
Right. Christmas
And
parties, all
they
that. So
kind of
forth.
do. They
Yeah.
get the Christmas parties out of the way,
Yeah.
so now that area of the clubhouse is open. Now they're going to put the Sims up, and now you got, the February, March,
It's it's
go
it's it's
crazy.
it's like gyms, right? Like everybody gets done Christmas, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, I'm going to head to the gym. So it's the same thing. People are like, oh, I guess I better get the golf clubs out now
Get
and
the game in shape.
dust them off.
Shape it up. Get the game
Yeah,
in shape. You know when I get my game in shape?
yeah. When you
June.
get to the first tee,
June, sometime around June. No, usually I get out and play. As soon as courses open, I'll get out and play. But I'm really not until like a May kind of golfer where I really get wound up. Some of us have Sims, and our games are dialed in all year round. All year round.
We try. That's
Dialed.
for sure. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to continue the discussion about Scottie
Yeah.
Scheffler, and we're going to get more into talking about his gear and some of the Tiger comparisons, because that's what everybody wants to do. So why not just follow suit and do the same thing? So why don't you take the bull by the horns on this one, Scotty Mac, and I'll just step in whenever I feel the need to throw in some colorful comment.
Yeah, no problem at all. Obviously, we know he got that 20th win that secures his lifetime membership on tour. He's going to be playing out of a different category before he gets to that lifetime membership category. But we watched Scheffler win at the Amex, just being steady, 27 under. But when people start to dig into his golf bag, I find it's very interesting because it's very much like his golf swing. Now, having talked to the people at his primary equipment sponsor, TaylorMade, more than a few times, the biggest thing with Scottie is that much like his golf swing, he's going to stick with whatever he's got, and it's going to be a challenge to get him out of what he uses and into new stuff. And that's because he trusts it. It's dependable. And there's lessons to be learned there for a lot of people. And I'm not saying, not disparaging going to new equipment, because some people from a fitting standpoint or whatever, they need new equipment or whatever. But, when you have products or things that you trust, it's important that that's what you stick with. There's not always miracles in the new things, so it doesn't mean you don't eventually change. It's not like Scottie Scheffler's playing with the same clubs he did when he was a junior. That's not what we're saying. But
wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that would be, but it takes him a little bit to kind of move through. Now, we know in the driver category that he did immediately put a new driver in his bag, the QI4D. He's still doing a lot of testing right now. He had it out early in the week at the Amex. He went back to his QI10 because he kind of trusts it or whatever to win the tournament. TaylorMade's fine with that. They'll eventually get something right for him, but sometimes it takes time, right? He obviously made a change in his 7-wood, and that was an interesting one, especially for that golf course. So he had a 3-iron that was in his bag, and he wanted something that would go that distance, so like a 240 carry, which is fun to talk about, 240 carry with a 3-iron. But he wanted he wanted to go to something that got the ball in the air easier. It could kind of fit that gap, and they played around and they end up with a TaylorMade QI4D, a 20-degree 7-wood. Now they did it at at a different length to again accommodate and get the right trajectory that he wanted, to get the right height that he wanted, and obviously it became a weapon. We're seeing, a lot of players now moving into that 7-wood, 9-wood category. If they're not using utilities, they recognize that the CG on those are further back. This is not necessarily for every player, but for him, especially when you're playing on PGA Tour greens that are rock hard, it becomes easier to stop a golf ball when you have a steeper landing angle, and you need to do that in these situations. QI10 still in his 3-wood. Here's the fun one. And
I was looking at this. This was funny
with his irons. So he plays a very traditional set of blades, the P7 TWs, which were the Tiger Woods signature blades. He's used it for years, all his tour wins. And I mean, now we're seeing obviously Rory go. I'll quit saying obviously. Jeez.
Well, we have words that we like.
We do, but we've seen Rory move over to a slight cavity back, moving away from his Rory prototype blades. But Scottie's a creature of habit, and he's using these traditional blades, 5 to pitching wedge, and he's used them for all these wins. And he's a big dude, creates lots of club head speed, doesn't need jacked up lofts or anything to make things happen. And yeah, I mean, you're not seeing these come out of his bag probably anytime soon, despite the fact I'm sure they played around and offered him lots of options. And I know he's played around with things, like, because I can remember a couple years ago when he was looking at when the Stealth iron line was out, and they had the Stealth HD iron, which is this low profile, high launch thing. And I know they built him a 3-iron, and he played around with that. So it's not like he's not going to move away from stuff, but he's not going to do it very quickly, right?
But that's the thing. That would be whatever he goes to at this point is going to be a pretty big jump.
Right.
If he were to go to what's out there now, even in the players club category of it, that's a pretty big jump going from P7 TWs to what's available right now.
Sure.
And he's not going to go to something in between. So he's either going to go from what he's got now to whatever is available, on the market now. He's not going to play something in the middle because he's already been down that road.
No, I can see it. It's
going to be a big jump. And at some point, it's going to be a big jump.
Yeah, I can see at some point that they would make him a Scottie Scheffler signature blade.
Yeah.
Which,
TW, totally, who's that guy?
Totally makes sense.
TW.
They've done one for Rory, then they can, which is not available to the public, but I could see them doing it. The funny part is it'd probably end up looking exactly like the TW. No, we don't know.
Probably.
There might be a slight nuance within those
something that if he were to change something about his TWs, this is what, if it were to change anything about my irons, this is what I would change.
Yes.
Beautiful. Scottie Scheffler, you got the SS Protos. Like, let's go. Yeah. I got Protos in my office here somewhere. I got a set of
those Nike ones.
Those Nike Protos.
The MMs. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if he wants to try those, he's welcome to.
Just dial him up. 3 Titleist SM10 Wedgework Protos.
So he's got Scottie McLeod 10s.
Yeah, exactly.
See, you got Scottie McLeod has had Vokey wedges custom made with his initials on them for a long time.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that they're not PMs.
Yeah.
They're not TWs. Those are SM10s.
It's quite funny because someone mentioned that a couple of years ago. They saw I had the stamping on it. It didn't even dawn on me from a Spin Mills. I didn't even look at it from my name perspective. Anyways,
not what it stands. They say that's what it stands for. They're just hiding. They don't want you to get too much, fan mail.
Yeah, and now we talked about the the proficiency of him and his ability to get wins in the last 2 seasons, and then heading into this season. His L-neck mallet that he's got, his TaylorMade Spider Tour X, he's used that for 14 of his 20 wins. And that is, and that, as we talked about, was his kryptonite. That was what
I didn't think it was that long.
Yeah.
No, I thought he'd won more than that before he switched to the mallet putter.
No, it just, he had variations, but it was that model that made the difference for him. Obviously there are other things that can work out in his putting, that, besides the equipment itself, but, that was a game changer for him. And the fact that, he put that in the bag and then he really began to dominate. I mean, as we know, he was dominating tee to green as it was. And everybody talked about that and said, if dude was even an average putter, he would dominate. Well, guess what? When all of a sudden you become an above average putter, then it really gets scary for everyone else to see how it goes. And you can see his trust in that putter because even on Saturday at the MX, he had left himself a very long putt on the 18th that would have pushed him out of the final group, and he would have to play in the second last group. And you're thinking, oh, okay, well, he's got this 25 footer or whatever, like, dude drains it. Like, it just, and you can see that he's got the ultimate confidence in it. He's not thinking about, I'm going to miss.
Yeah.
He's thinking only probably about the makes more than anything. So,
which is why I would argue that if he were an average putter, he would not be as dominant as he is right now.
No, for sure.
I don't think. And if you're an average putter, you don't dominate on the PGA Tour. You have to
win.
Tiger was dominant,
right,
not just because of the things that he could do with hitting shots,
Yeah.
it was because he was considered one of the best clutch putters.
Right.
And that's what Scottie Scheffler is. Scottie Scheffler is not only a good putter, but he is an excellent clutch putter. Makes it when you need to make a putt, Scheffler makes the putt. And that's a difference maker.
And that was important last week. You know, he was first in putts per green in regulation, which I think when people start talking about putting, I think too often they fall into the total number of putts. And we talked a little bit about that before. Is like, okay, well, great. You hit 18 greens and you have 36 putts. Well, if you miss a lot of greens, you'll have less as far as that number. So it's an invalid number. It's that putts per green in regulation, which means, you know, when you're hitting a green in regulation, how many are you making? That makes a difference. So last week he was first in greens in regulation. Now he does use a Pro V1 golf ball. He's using the 25-26 iteration of that golf ball. I know he's worked and TaylorMade has worked with him to obviously go into their product. Again, creature of habit. You know, they're not, there's more value to him winning than value of just pushing him into the golf ball. And because he's a player at that status, they're going to be patient that way. Because
and how many players that aren't at his level that have contracts with equipment manufacturers that are forced into their equipment before they're really ready, and their game never really realized because it's just too much. And so...
Yeah. And the thing is, anyways, I mean, most people obviously affiliate him with TaylorMade. So the perception by the general golfer anyways is that he plays all TaylorMade through his equipment anyway. So it's kind of a moot point. They just want him to kind of keep winning or whatever.
And
so,
I would too. Focus on the wins.
Yeah. So that's sort of a bit of a summary of his equipment and kind of what he's doing with that. Don't expect a lot of changes. I mean, that was a big change for him to go from that, utility iron that he had to go to that higher launching 7-wood. We'll see if that stays in the bag as he goes into other golf courses, but I would expect it might come in and out depending where he plays.
Yeah. Well, if you're playing, if you're playing obviously over in the Open Championship in the UK where you've got to flight the ball a little bit lower, you might go back to using the utility iron. Yeah. As opposed to the higher launching club, which makes sense, but
exactly.
I'm sure lots of players do that too. They just flip stuff in and out all the time.
Yeah, they play around with different wedges for different turf conditions and stuff like that. So that to bring him to an era now where we're going to talk about him and Tiger.
Well, this is the thing. I think prior to this, we're always looking for the next person to compare to the best person. Right. So Tiger came. I mean, there were times when Greg Norman was at his peak, and we were with the things he was doing. We were comparing him to Jack, and then we were comparing VJ, and we're always looking for the next big person to compare to the best person that's out there. But there really haven't been that many true comparisons of golfer to golfer since Tiger Woods being compared to Jack Nicklaus. That really has been the benchmark for comparisons to the GOATs, if you will. Even though completely different eras. This one, you're still talking about different eras. And that's the thing. You got to remember that Tiger Woods to Scottie Scheffler, yes, Tiger's still playing. Yes, Tiger could still compete. Could Tiger win? We don't know. That's a different podcast discussion topic. Yeah. But Scottie Scheffler and Tiger Woods are not competing against each other in the same era, much like Jack and Tiger did. It's different eras. However, now we finally have somebody that is doing things that we can actually truly compare to Tiger. And now
at least in a short period of time.
We don't know long term. 10 years from now, is Scheffler creeping up on 14 major victories?
Right.
If that happens, boy, oh boy, will we ever be talking.
I think what we've had a couple of bursts here and there, and we've mentioned VJ, a guy like David Duval. I mean, these are people that, got to number one in the world kind of in that Tiger era, but we also saw that it wasn't sustained. And I think that's why we're beginning to look at Scottie Scheffler more, because he's sustaining the success as opposed to he has that big year in 24. It's like, okay, that's when it was sort of like, maybe we shouldn't be doing any comparisons yet, because, what happens next year? Well, next year he comes back and wins a ton more, and, starts the year this year, wins a ton more. Obviously has won some majors that are in there. And those are happening. And you go from winning one major in a year to all of a sudden having a year where you win two majors. And it's like, oh boy, here we go. Now we have some validity to start talking about things, especially when we
Yes.
start talking about stats. And, I guess a good comparison or a good place to start was maybe talk about that stretch, that 24-25 stretch. That's the time when we can all of a sudden start to look back at some different things. And I guess a simple comparison would be look at the stats a little bit from Tiger's most dominant year, which some would argue was 2000, and I think that's a valid argument considering
I'd say so, yeah.
3 majors that year or whatever. But let's sort of put that in context as far as Scottie Scheffler's 2025. So last year and kind of what the comparisons are.
So in that time frame, in Tiger's 2000 year versus Scottie's 2025 year, Tiger had 9 PGA Tour wins in 2000.
Yeah.
Scheffler had 6.
Yeah. And this is why this is important as well. This is 25 years ago. So a lot of golfers today, they hear about Tiger, but they don't really know the gritty details of being around and being,
well, that's why I say they're different. You say they're different eras, and some people say, well, Tiger's still, whatever. So, 25 years ago, that's a different era. That's not the same era. It's different eras.
Generations.
Tiger in that 2000 year, he won 3 major championships in the same year,
which is wild.
Scheffler won 2. Now you might say, okay, well, 2, 3, no, 3 major championships in a single year is a significantly better achievement than 2.
Sure, but
significantly, but
it is rarefied air for both.
Yes, for both. It's huge.
This one's interesting.
Yeah, top 10 finishes. Tiger had 17 out of 20. Yeah, 17 top 10 finishes in 20 starts. That's 85% of his starts. Scheffler had 16 out of 19. That's 84%. That's pretty much the same.
Yeah. And I think when we remember, Tiger, the one thing that always people, appreciated about Tiger was that he was in it. Like every week he was in it.
Yeah. Much like what we're seeing now.
Scheffler. So that's what we're seeing is that, we're not shocked now when it's like, okay, Thursday, 1 round, people see, okay, well, so-and-so's leading. Those 2 guys shot 62 and Scheffler only shot 5 under. But then, the next day arrives and next thing, guess who comes up and starts working his way up to the top of the leaderboard. And, the best golfers are the ones that are going to be playing or be at the top of the leaderboard over the longest period of time. Right. I mean, if you give a run-of-the-mill PGA Tour player who is, still world-class, 1 shot, 1 day, anybody can win, right? It's 1 day. But as we start to go and play a lot more holes, that's when that cream starts to rise. So that's when you start to see that consistency. And, we're seeing that every year with Scottie.
Now, this statistic is very interesting, too. You look at the adjusted scoring average.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, both of them in these years first. Obviously, when you're winning that much, you're probably going to be first. However, 25 years ago, Tiger's scoring average 67.79. 25 years later, Scheffler is doing what Scheffler's doing. His stroke average is 68.13.
Yeah.
So,
and I think both of those as well. I think the record before, and I could be totally wrong with it, but somehow it jumps in my mind. But, Tiger, when he beat that record or created that record in 2000, he beat a standard set by Byron Nelson, which I think was like 68.3. So if you think about that, then those are both below that mark of an all-time.
Yeah.
We're talking a record that goes back, 80 years. So.
I just think 25 years ago, your average score is 67. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah.
Greens in regulation. Interestingly, Tiger was first in greens in regulation with 75%. And Scheffler is 11th at 71%. So 75%. Well, that just goes to show you 67 stroke average. You're hitting 75%, better than 75% of your greens in regulation. That's insane. And again, 25 years ago, we're talking about because we're talking about a different golf ball. We're talking about different golf equipment.
Correct. Exactly.
Like, and yet you're doing, this is like where you get the comparisons of Al McInnes's slap shot compared to the current modern day slap shot. And Al McInnes's slap shot was just as hard and just as fast in his day as they are shooting it now. And he used a wooden stick. Yeah. So, I'm not saying Tiger's using hickory shafts here, but still.
Yeah, and we don't know as far as, where they're playing slightly different golf courses. Is the golf course longer? As you said, the ball's different or whatever. But, all those things figured out or figured into there, we're still talking somebody that's in that range. And that's making the difference. And we know one of the biggest difference for Tiger was, not just making the birdies, it was avoiding bogeys, which obviously he hated. And that makes the difference. If you're hitting greens in regulation, you're a PGA Tour player, chances are if you're hitting greens, your percentage of making three putts is pretty small. So you're not going to make mistakes. Usually you're making mistakes if you miss greens.
Now, not that it matters a ton, but we're comparing Tiger's year 2000 to Scheffler's 2025. The other thing we could take a look at if we want to really pin it down to comparing years to years is how many years had Tiger Woods been on tour by the time the year 2000 hit when he had that year? How many years was Scottie Scheffler on tour before 2025? We already know Scheffler. He'd been on tour for 5 years. So I just want to make sure we're comparing things
and it's
year to year, but are we comparing age to age? Are we comparing number of years on tour? Like
it's close. There's other factors. Close. Because Tiger came onto that tour in late 96 and first full year in 97 when he won the Masters that year. So they're pretty close that way. So that's a good comparison. But we also know the Tiger was going at a pace. It took Scottie 151 wins or 151 tournaments to get those 20 wins, where Tiger was under 100. So that's wild to even talk about somebody in that category.
So I think now the one other stat that I'll bring up is the winning margin, because we did talk about Scottie Scheffler and how much he wins his majors by, but the average winning margin very close as well. Tiger was 4.1 strokes and Scheffler's 3.8. So that's the average that they win tournaments by. Again, a decent comparison. All of that said, in all these statistics, I would still say that although there are some comparisons that are close, I still think that Tiger. Tiger is still a level above. Where Scheffler's
it's still the gold standard. Yeah, I think the win margin is important because that's showing your comparison to the field that you're playing against at the time. So if all things are equal, if we look at Scottie playing against his peers, Tiger playing against his peers, the fact that you're dominating and being ahead of them shows some relevance to that, because again, as we talked about, different golf ball, different courses or whatever, but if you're playing that far ahead of your peers, and a stroke is a lot per round in a 4-round tournament, that shows you right away that you're doing it in this era against the other best players at the time.
So then we talk about, so now we have the comparisons, apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Where do they differ? One of the biggest areas that they differ in right now, and is the hardware. Tiger completed his Tiger Slam by winning the 3 majors in 1 calendar year, which included a 15-shot annihilation of the field at Pebble Beach. Now, Scotty
still shake my head at that one.
I know. I mean, and I still go back and watch it whenever I see the class. It's like I have to watch, because it's just like, how did they?
And I would suggest people go and do that if they want to know the relevance and they see how hard that golf course was that year. It was just impossible.
Exactly. It's not like he did something that everybody else was. Like he didn't put up a number that everybody else was putting up. He put up a number that nobody else was putting up on a golf course that nobody should have been putting that number up on. Doing things that mortal men should not be able to do at Pebble Beach under those conditions.
Yeah, and Ernie Els and DJ were two of the players that were chasing them that year. I mean, they talked about it. They're just like, how is this even possible? Like, they just don't see how it's possible. So yeah.
So,
and this is not just to heap praise on Tiger Woods, but
no.
It's just to show you that, you know, Scottie's doing big things, but, you know, he's still got time, and there's still a lot more things that he has to do in order for it to be the most valid comparison possible. So,
I mean, winning 2 majors in 1 year is outstanding, but that pales somewhat in comparison to the Triple Crown that Tiger achieved.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so that kind of thing is just okay. You know, that's a big deal. That's a big separator, huge major gap. Yeah. Statistical separation.
Yeah, that one's important.
In 2000, Tiger's scoring average was a 1.8 strokes better than the next player, which was Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, 1.18. So, I mean, that's big, right? So
that's a lot.
For the whole year.
It doesn't seem like it when you talk about it. It's 1.18 strokes.
Yeah.
That is a bunch.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, there's just fractions between the top of the field and the bottom of the field. I mean, you know, if you look at a PGA Tour event, the difference between, you know, the number 1 player versus the bottom player, and throughout the entire year, I mean, it's fractions. So,
and so Scottie, in 2025, his stroke average was 0.5 strokes better than Xander Schauffele.
Yeah.
So that's half. Like we're
so again, domination, right? It's like
Now, I see in your notes here that the nuance of it all is many analysts would argue that Scottie Scheffler is facing a much deeper field of talent today.
Yeah. You can only play against who you play against.
Well, that's it. That's like you go back and look at Jack Nicklaus, and when he was doing what Jack Nicklaus was doing, saying that he was probably playing a field even weaker than the ones that Tiger played in.
Yeah.
And sure, yes, maybe the fields that Scheffler playing against are stronger, and that's why he's not more dominant, or maybe he's just not as dominant. I mean, that's he's dominant, but maybe he's not as dominant as Tiger was. The statistics would tell you that he's not doing the same things that Tiger was doing. So those little differences in stroke average and things like that make a difference in dominance.
Yes.
So I guess the last thing that we can look at here would be the pre-30 race, because we're talking about never done this, you know, under the age of 29, blah blah blah. Okay, well now we're looking at the pre-30 race.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
how are we comparing these two?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, we can look at it from an age standpoint, but everybody's going to move along in their career differently. And as we said, Tiger did a lot of things fast and early, whereas Scottie kind of worked into it and then started to dominate. So again, we don't know kind of where this rock is going to roll as far as go things. He's, you know, become a very proficient putter. He's not the player, or he's not the putter that Tiger has been, right? Like he's doing some things, but as you said, he shows glimpses of that, and that has played into this when we start talking about this pace. So if we talk about the wins, Scottie's at 20 wins before 30. Tiger had 46. So think about that. That puts him in
that ends the comparison pretty quickly, doesn't it?
If you use that comparison, because again, it's at this point comparison versus what can play out in the future. That's looking at a stock portfolio. What has it done now versus what it could do in the future? You don't 100% know that, but we also do know that Tiger had won 9 of his 15 majors by the age of 30, where Scottie has won 4. And that fast start is super, super important, especially in an era where, you know, you don't know if a player gets injured. Do they get other hobbies? Do they so?
And age slows you down. Age generally does slow you down. Jack Nicklaus aside, the one major that he won when he was much older, okay, 46, that's fine. Yeah. But getting that, you're right, getting that fast start, getting those wins early in your career. Yeah. For Scheffler, getting those wins later in his career, even though his career is still young,
only at 29.
He's already like
behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, like so he's only going to get older. The body's going to slow down a bit. The younger guys are going to come up and make it harder. So everything for him is going to get a little bit more difficult as he in the next 5-6 years. So Can you keep up that pace?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think you made a great point there, and that's the thing we have to realize is that, you know, we're talking about things right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say that, you know, a year down the road we don't have another player that is strong and dominant or whatever and starts eating into those titles? I mean, people sit there and talk about, you know, Phil and his record and what would have been if Tiger hadn't been around or whatever. That's the other side here, is that you don't get full control of it. You've got to play against competition, right?
I mean, here comes Blades, right?
Yeah, it's exactly. You might be the greatest player, but who you know, there's other players. And that's why that early start is important, because the next great player could be in first year university right now, and they could be on the tour or a junior or whatever. So that pace becomes really important, and it means that, you know, you've got to take care of things kind of right away. We will say that, you know, obviously it's the closest version of a Tiger like player that, you know, we've seen so far, because, you know, when you start to look at, you know, the win total and what Tiger did, it's just going to be harder and harder to be able to do that and to be that dominant, for a number of reasons. Like, you know what? You've got kids, you've got family. You know, here's the thing. He's won over $100 million. That's just PGA Tour earnings. That's not bonus earnings. That's not endorsements. That's no whatever. I mean, it's different for every person. Now, guaranteed, he does not play for the money. You know, at this point, he's got more than enough money that he needs. He wants to win trophies as much as possible, but that's hard to sustain. You know, at some point, it's like, okay, when do I kind of take my foot off the gas, spend more time at home, you know, play a less of a schedule. I'm a lifetime winner. You don't know what their motivation is. They can say what their motivation is right now, but who's to say what their motivation is 2 years from now?
Yeah.
So but that said, it's fun to enjoy it. It's fun to watch it.
Sure it is.
I mean, what's kind of what's your conclusion out of kind of all this and talking about Scottie? And, you know,
my conclusion is pretty simple. I'm enjoying what we're watching right now. I'm enjoying the fact that I had the opportunity to watch Tiger Woods. I didn't have the opportunity to watch Jack Nicklaus in his heyday, and see that level of dominance. You know, I see videos and stuff now, but it's different. I enjoy the fact that I had the opportunity to watch Tiger's dominance from beginning to end.
Right. Yeah.
And I say end because beginning to end.
Sure.
I am happy with the fact that I have gotten the opportunity to watch Scheffler's dominance from beginning, and probably will be able to watch it until its end. So I've been able to watch two of the greatest golfers of all time play at their beginning, and potentially with Scheffler at the end. And for me, that's what I'm excited about. I don't really care I don't think that Scheffler will match Tiger Woods wins. I don't think that Scheffler will match Tiger Woods majors, because I just don't think that the game it's not that like that anymore. And I think that Tiger coming up, I think Tiger was just that much better. He could achieve that. I don't think Scheffler is as good a golfer as Tiger was. But he's a great golfer. But there's a lot of great golfers, and we see that. You know, week in and week out, we see that level of competition. So I'm just happy we're able to see it, to be honest with you.
I agree.
And I like Scheffler. I like the fact that he's a little more subdued, a little calmer. I don't mind that he's not this flamboyant, you know, wild child kind of golfer. I think it's nice to not have, you know, everybody be like that. He just goes about his business, does his job, says the right things, and moves on.
Determined but humble, which is really a really cool way to see it. And yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, you know, it's fractional as far as the difference, but it's enough to be a difference as far as the athlete is concerned. I think if people, you know, especially juniors and stuff like that, they can see that you don't have to have that bravado, but you can still be confident in your abilities.
Absolutely.
That you can grind away, that you can work hard, you can do it sort of your way and still make it happen if you put in the work and the effort. And I think you're right, that just makes it fun to watch. And really, you know, if we didn't have some of these things happening on PGA Tour, it wouldn't be as magnetic to watch as, you know, some of the other things that are happening. And I think we need sort of these we'll call it hero stories, something that's happening historic to be able to draw our attention and keep our attention.
Yep, I agree 100%. On that note,
yeah,
let's shut her down for the week. That was a great topic to get into. I hope everybody, enjoyed the little conversation, and draw your own conclusions.
Exactly.
Send us a note if you want, email, PM us, whatever you want to do. Let us know in whatever comments that what you think of what we talked about today. But that's it for us for this week. Thanks to our sponsors, Metcalfe Golf Club, Falcon Ridge Golf Club, and our presenting sponsor this week, Golf PEI. Golf Prince Edward Island is a premier Canadian golf destination boasting the most number of golf courses per capita in this country. With over 400 golf fairways, closer than you can imagine, top-tier accommodations, and exquisite culinary experiences, it is the easiest golf vacation that you will ever book, so go ahead and book them at golfpei.ca. We do hope that you've been enjoying watching and hearing what we're saying. Be sure to follow us across all of our social media networks, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Subscribe to Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts, and don't forget the YouTube channel. Like us, click the notification bell, and make sure you never miss a single episode. Get over to flagstick.com. More amazing golf content delivered there every single day, especially equipment right now. And be sure to subscribe to the Flagstick Digest newsletter. It comes out 3 times a week, free of charge, directly to your inbox, to keep you informed. As always, we appreciate you tuning in, but until next week, I'm Jeff Potter.
I'm Scott McLeod.
Always remember, go for this day.